Welcome everyone to the listening session on the updated combined sewer overflows control plan. I'm Ona Ferguson here with Abby Fulham from the Consensus Building Institute. We'll be facilitating today's meeting also with Charlotte Goodman, who you see here. And really happy to be here with you. We will just spend a few, 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning doing some overview and starter pieces before we get in. The purpose of today's session is to provide an opportunity for people to share thoughts about the CSO control plans project that the cities of Cambridge and Somerville and the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, or MWRA, are leading. So we're midway through this 5-year project. We hope that when you got your invitation, and again on the registration page, you saw that we are hoping you watched the January 22nd public meeting, either in person, kind of live, or on video, and have a sense of what's going on in this project, because we're not going to get into it in any detail tonight. This is, in a way, kind of an add-on to that meeting and a chance for members of the public to share their thoughts and perspectives. We're going to put into the chat a link to the project website where you can find all these materials. And I would say, Abby, do you want to just put up, thank you. On the project website, you will find materials from the previous public meetings for the project. There are also links there to sign up for notifications when there are CSO releases, and how to get signed up to stay updated on this project. Tonight, let's go, I think, to the next slide. We're talking about this project that is being led by 3 project partners, the City of Somerville, Cambridge, and the MWRA. This is this multi-year project, excuse me, over 4 or 5 years to determine the scope of the problem today, to look at tools that could help that problem, and to come up with and compare possible packages of tools and then select plans to implement. The map shows the geography of the project, and the yellow dots show the locations of the CSOs that the project is looking at. So we're going to do, I think, introductions. Great. And I think we can turn off the slide for a sec so people can see our folks who are listening here from our project team. And I think I'll just call on each of you so you can say hello and share your affiliation and your role. Let's go to MWRA first. Do you want to go Brian and then Jeremy?
Sure. Brian Kowalska. I'm the chief engineer at the MWRA. Been working on CSO issues for many years, like 30 plus. Jeremy?
Hello, everybody. I'm Jeremy Hall. I'm the program manager for the CSO program, and I've been working on CSOs for over 24 years.
Thank you. Let's go to Cambridge. Jim Lucica.
Good evening. I'm Jim Wilcox. I'm the city engineer at Cambridge Public Works. I've been working in Cambridge since 1998 with a lot of work on the CSO control plan.
Good evening. I'm Lucica Hiller. I'm working for the city of Cambridge. I'm the senior project manager working on the CSO control plan update, and I've only been working on CSOs for the past 5 years.
But you've worked on them a lot in those 5 years. You get extra bonus points. And let's go to Somerville. Rich and Gina and Magda.
Richard Race, Director of Infrastructure and Asset Management for the City of Somerville. I, like Brian, have been working on CSOs in the region for the 30-year timeframe.
Hi, Gina Cortese. I'm the project manager for this work for the City of Somerville.
Thank you. And Magda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Magda Gomez. I'm a construction liaison with the infrastructure department at the City of Somerville. I've been with Somerville for a year. Thanks so much for your comments and for being here.
Perfect. Let's go to the agenda for the evening. This session is really focused on hearing from community representatives. So first, we're going to take a few minutes and do a kind of a survey poll written activity where everyone here can share hopes and concerns, and we get a sense of who's here right now so that everybody has the info. We have 137 people attending this meeting, including the people who are presenting, or not presenting, listening for the partners. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. I apologize in advance. We are going to move through this as follows. We'll do that activity, and then we've given 4 groups a chance to give slightly longer comments. So we'll go to the first 2, we'll do Charles River Watershed Association, and I think this is not actually in the order we're going to go in. We're going to do Charles River Watershed Association and Mystic River Watershed Association. Then we'll take some of the individual public comment, and then we'll do a second round and hear from Save the Alewife Brook and the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority Advisory Board, and then do more public comment. So that is the structure, and we are hoping to hear from lots and lots of people. We are recording the meeting, and we're going to post the recording on the project website. So that is up for anyone who wants to come back and listen to what's important to people in the future. And with that, I think we can go to our Menti. So everyone, you can get into this activity in one of 2 ways. You can use your phone and scan that QR code, or you can just type into a web browser, the menti.com, and enter that code. And you'll see a green arrow when you get there until we move to the first question. So we'll give you a moment to get in on that. And then there are going to be a few questions about where you live, where you work, and your hopes and your concerns about the project. And this is going to be maybe 5 minutes. What, can you tell the numbers?
Just a thumbs up.
Just the thumbs up. Yeah, let's start. I like the real-time rainbow action happening here. Where do you live? Again, we currently have 140 participants. Not everyone will be weighing in on this necessarily, but if you can, we'd love it because it's nice to know who's here. All right, let's go to where do you work? And for anyone who's just trying to catch up, if there's a link in the chat of how to get into this. Where do you work? Nice, nice. All right, great. Next question. We thought this might be of interest to some folks. Are you affiliated with any of these groups? Nice. And I think we have another, do we have other? So the next slide question is, if you said other, can you just say your affiliation if you're willing to share? So we get a sense of that. And it's okay if you don't want to, this is going to be shared afterwards. Nice. So fun to see this. Thanks, everybody. And then we have these 2 open-ended questions coming next. And the first is, what are your hopes for the project? And for that one and for the one after, which is about concerns, if you have multiple hopes or multiple concerns, you can hit submit after each individual one. You can give more than one answer. So feel free to give like specific separate answers to each question. I think we can go. So we'll sit on this one for a couple minutes so people can think and type. Yeah, a lot of related hopes here. Not surprising, but it's nice to hear people's different words and kind of angles on it. And you can read these more carefully after if you want to come back to them. All right. Oh, yeah, so this will very quickly do a quick AI grouping. So we're gonna let it do that and see what themes it's pulling out, just real time. And then we'll go to the concerns question. Not bad, right? Clean Alewife Brook, sewage elimination, swimmable rivers, green infrastructure, and wildlife restoration. Nice. Great. Next and final question is concerns for the project or concerns about the project. And we'll do the same thing and give you a couple minutes. And again, you can submit multiple answers. So if you have multiple ones, you can keep them distinct. There's some process things in here, right, around transparency. There's cost considerations. There's how perfect, what do you want to see? Disruption. Concern that it won't happen. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, let's do it. Let's group them. Oh, it's taking longer on this one. Here we go. Concerns include slow progress, lots of cost concerns. There were a bunch of process ones around lack of transparency or making sure that there's good community input. I think it's not, we can see where it's AI, so it doesn't always catch this stuff correctly. Coordination concerns, and then surely others. We do, forgot, have one final question, which is we'd like to get a sense of how many people want to make public comment verbally tonight, in addition to what you just wrote. So if you would like to, if you can just, or just let us know either way, so we can just think about time, that would be great. And then we will start in with that piece. A lot of you are like, I'll wait and see how it goes, see what I feel like. That's fine. You don't have to have decided right now. Great, thank you. Okay, let's, I think, stop looking at that. So great. So here's how this is going to work. If you would like to make public comment, please raise your hand. There's a little hand icon at the bottom of your screen, probably, I think. And when it is your turn, we will call on you. And at that point, we'll promote you. So right now you're attendees, so we can't see you or hear you. It will require you to hit a blue button, kind of accepting the promotion. And when that happens, then you'll be able to unmute yourself and also turn on your camera so we can see you, which would be really nice. It'll make it way more interesting for people to see each other's faces. And we'd ask that you share your name, your affiliation if it's relevant, and whatever comment you want to make. We ask that you be respectful. I'm going to have a timer in my Zoom window. I forget which side it's on, here or here, which will be counting down from 2 minutes. And so we ask that when you hit 2 minutes, you sort of finish your sentence if you haven't, so that we make time for everyone. We're going to try to call on as many people as we can. There's not going to be back and forth with the project team, right? They're not answering questions. This isn't a kind of time for a technical conversation with them. This is really a chance for your voices about this project. I think that's the gist of it. And we can remind you of some of this. There's the hand raise. That's where to find the hand raise thing. That looks so teeny on my screen. And if you are calling in on a phone, you're going to want to hit *9 to raise your hand and *9 to unraise your hand, right? If you want to take it down, and then *6 to unmute and mute. So with that, we're going to go to Max Rome. Are you here? We want to bring you up, and let's take down the slides just for a second so he can say hello before we put up his slides. Charlotte, are you grabbing Max? Okay. Hello, Max. Welcome from the Charles River Watershed Association. And we've given these groups 5 minutes or so. So that's, we'll give you a kind of heads up around 5 minutes, Max. Thanks for being here. Can we hear you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. You're a little quiet, so
Okay.
louder voice is good.
Okay, well, thank you for having us, and I wish I could see all the other people who are in this Zoom meeting. I wish we were in person somewhere together. I really appreciate everybody who's joining us tonight, who cares like so passionately about this process and about, you know, achieving clean rivers and really making progress on this issue that folks have been dealing with for, you know, their whole careers, as you've heard here. My name is Max Rome. I work for the Charles River Watershed Association, and I grew up in Cambridge, right on the Alewife Brook. And I'm really, you know, excited to see what we can do together as part of this process. And do you want? Yeah, you've got the slides. Do you want me to share? All right, so I wanted to just kind of back up a little bit and you know, remind folks, if in case you don't already know, about why this is so important. You know, in the 1940s, there were 8 public beaches in the Lower Charles. This was a place where on hot summer days, even though probably the water wasn't super clean, people learned how to swim. People went there to see their neighbors and, you know, seek refuge from summer heat. In 1948, you know, these beaches were closed. The river was very polluted by sewage contamination, by industrial waste. The river was in really bad shape. In 1965, there was a group of citizens, a group of just people who got together to say, what can we do to improve conditions in the Charles River? They formed, you know, they ultimately formed the Charles River Watershed Association in 1965 and started to try and understand, you know, what are the sources of pollution? What can we do about it? And it wasn't, you know, this group predated the Clean Water Act, which passed in 1972. And, you know, it's critical to just acknowledge that what the Clean Water Act says is that the waters of the United States will be swimmable and fishable. And that's what this issue is all about. Having a swimmable, fishable Charles River is not just kind of a good idea, it's actually the law. And in 1995, there was people got together to say, hey, we're really not getting there in the Charles right now. And at that time, there was a major investments that were made kind of under the umbrella of the Clean Charles Initiative, building the Deer Island wastewater treatment plant, starting to like really ramp up investments in eliminating combined sewer overflow, getting that sewage to Deer Island so it wasn't ending up in the river. In 1995, CRWA started working with the EPA to give the Charles River a letter grade every year. And in that first year, the river got a D. Today, we're at kind of a B+, A-. The river is often safe enough for swimming. And there's public swimming events that are held annually. They're incredible. Recommend checking them out.
Max, you're 3 minutes in to give you a sense.
Okay, but the point is, we're not there yet, and we've got a lot of work to do. So next slide. The fact of the matter is, there are significant overflows of sewage into the Charles River every single year. This group uses something called the typical year to kind of assess how we're doing with progress towards eliminating combined sewer overflow, but we blow past the typical year in almost every single year. Even years with typical amounts of rainfall have way more sewage than even the current regulations allow. Next slide. And sewage overflow is an environmental justice issue. The area that surrounds the lower basin, is mapped by the state as containing environmental justice communities. And we know from recent research in Massachusetts that on average, if you are in an area that has twice as many people of color, you're likely to have more than 4 times as much sewage discharge and sewage contamination. Next slide. So, what have we seen so far from this process? We've started to see some options to end regular sewer overflows. This is great. We've seen options for tunnels in the Charles River that could store millions and millions of gallons of combined sewage and will cost billions of dollars. There's something else that we want to see. We want to see this project deliver climate resilient co-benefits. Next slide. We're asking this group to really think big, to kind of follow the best current practices, not what's been done in the last 20 years, but best current practices, look towards the future, think about how can we do nature-based design, how can we collaborate, not just in our water departments and in our municipal boundaries, but how can we collaborate to really find green infrastructure solutions that can be a benefit to the community, that can have benefits for habitat, public health, recreation, beyond just storing combined sewage. Next slide. One of the really specific asks we have for this group is to look at a triple bottom line analysis. We want this process to understand not just the cost of building combined sewage storage facilities, but also the potential value of some of the solutions that should be on the table. Next slide. So here's what we really want to see in the next long-term control plan. We want to see an end to sewage overflows. We want to see some really creative, forward-thinking designs that use nature-based solutions to the fullest extent. Finally, we have been really kind of frustrated by this process. It's been kind of old school. It's been, we do the work, we share out the information, we may or may not incorporate the feedback that we're receiving. And CRWA is looking for, would welcome, requests. We'll bend over backwards. We'll stand up for an open, collaborative process that really includes the community as a partner. And we want to see this project not just siloed, but we want to see it really align with other state and local goals. You know, how can the state's biodiversity goals be part of the CSO conversation? You know, what about transportation? We want to have a bigger, more aligned conversation if we're thinking about investing, you know, $6 to $10 billion over the next 40 years. Finally, we ask you to absolutely include a triple bottom line analysis so that we can understand both the cost of the project and the potential value from doing things in a way that can be transformative and positive for our region.
Thank you very much, Max. I appreciate it. We're gonna now hear from the Mystic River Watershed Association, Patrick Heron. We are promoting you. There you go. Welcome, Patrick. We'll let you introduce yourself before we put up slides so people can see you.
Great. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for caring about this issue and being here. And before I get started, I just want to thank the team for welcoming this opportunity and to just support everything that Max said before I get into my comments. So thank you. Okay, thanks for the introduction, and I'll just say that I'm the executive director of the Mystic River Watershed Association, but I swim and boat in the Mystic River with my kids, and I'll just say that our brief comments will kind of hit three themes: why we care, why we think this process is so urgent at this moment, and some of the requests we have for next steps in this work. So next slide, please. You know, why we care so much about this is that as Max relayed, we are in the final chapter and unfinished chapter of the Boston Harbor cleanup story. And so much of the success of that cleanup was really accomplished by cleaning up and turning off the CSOs. And yet, if we talk about the places in the Mystic, like particularly in Alewife Brook, these CSOs remain unfinished. And needless to say, these are really urban watersheds, the Charles and the Mystic. And one consequence of that, maybe that's not emphasized enough, is that the sewage events in these two riverways have the potential to impact a lot of people. Yes, it's really impactful if you're in a butter on Alewife Brook, or you're trying to recreate and the stream is flooding with sewage. But it goes further to Somerville being the densest community in Massachusetts and a river full of rowers and canoers during the summer. The health of this river and this infrastructure impacts a lot of people, and there's still a lot of value to be unlocked by addressing these problems. Next slide, please. You know, CSOs are regulated as a part of a permit process called the NIPDES permit. And that permit process is not about diminishing CSOs, it's about eliminating CSOs. And we're in a real inflection point to get this right at the correct scale. It's not a minor problem. This pollution is traveling downstream and impacting a lot of people, as I've noted. And if you look on the left-hand side of this illustration, you can see that, or this graphic, you can see that we're talking about sewage discharges that are in the tens of millions of gallons. And in the red on the left is Alewife Brook, and all of that's untreated. That means that proxy indicators like E. coli and the parasites and viruses are all live. They're going down the river and impacting people. The blue is the total treated in the Mystic River. But if you look across all of Boston, this small stream of Alewife Brook actually gets more untreated sewage than every place except for Fort Point Channel, which is being washed out by the tide twice a day. So it's really an acute problem that needs to be addressed in Alewife Brook. It's a challenging one, but it's one that needs significant investment. Next slide, please. The next thing I just want to point out, and we're the beneficiary of great engineers and planners and climate scientists who are partnering in Cambridge, Somerville, and MWRA to do this work. This is a slide that they've presented, and it's a reminder that if we don't do anything, the discharges at these very same sites will be 4 times what they are now in 2050 than they are right now. So it's not that these sites need a minor tweak to meet the typical year. It's that climate change demands a new set of investments that go beyond where we are to be ready for the future. Next slide, please. Max and Charles River and the Mystic are looking at the same research. We too will reference Dr. Sanders' reference that this is an environmental justice issue in Alewife Brook in particular, in the Mystic River, that folks of color and low-income folks are exposed to more CSOs in Massachusetts than folks who live in watersheds without diversity or low income. And then the second point we would raise is that recent research by Dr. Beth Haley and Dr. Wendy Heiger-Bernays of Boston University shows that even living in the vicinity of combined sewer overflows on the Merrimack River is showing a connection with gastrointestinal illness. So we don't really understand all these vectors yet about why people are getting sick. All this to say there's real health impacts of not addressing these. Next slide, please. So I think we've got some requests as we come into the end of this project. And one of them is a similar one, that we hope that there will be co-benefits for the solutions that are developed. And we think that calling out as a symbol of what types of solutions are the right ones, we don't have to look very far. The Alewife Stormwater Wetland in Cambridge shows us what's possible. And it was built as a larger project to eliminate CSOs there. And it's one that we could probably see expanded to provide more relief. I want to point out that as we look forward and what we hope that this project will be iterative and transparent with engineering proposals. Please don't hold off on the perfect, complete. Please come back to us and get our input sooner rather than later so that you can get the community insights and values drawn into these deliberations sooner rather than later. We will benefit from conversations about how affordability will be calculated and the support that the MWRA Advisory Board will give to what will be a really monumental and important health improvement and watershed improvement for all of us. And as we look back on Boston Harbor, nobody said we spent too much money. Everybody is saying, wow, what an amazing resource that's unlocked tourism and real estate development and all these things. These are the outcomes that we still are waiting for in the Mystic, and I'm sure in the Charles as well. Finally, I just want to express my gratitude to this team of civil servants in Cambridge, Somerville, and MWRA who are working so hard at this. Thank you for your efforts. Appreciate your service. And I think we're so, we have a lot of confidence in what you're capable of doing to meet this moment and address these problems. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Patrick. So thank you, Max and Patrick. For the other two sort of slightly extended comment periods, which will be people who will be Kristen Anderson from Save the Alewife Brook and Matt Romero from the MWRA Advisory Board. We're going to go to kind of general public for about 20 minutes to start to get some of their words into the mix, and then we'll come to you. So hang tight for just a little bit and we will be coming to you. Everybody, so those of you who can't see, we have 154 people in the session right now, including the people you can see on your screen, and 15 of you have your hands raised. If you would like to make a verbal comment and share some thoughts, it would be great for you to raise your virtual hand with that little button at the bottom of your screen, and we will start calling on people. Again, you'll have 2 minutes. I'm going to have a timer in my little Zoom window, and we are looking forward to hearing your thoughts. So we're just going to start calling on people. Charlotte, I'm just going to go in the order that we're seeing it in. So that means, and I'll tell you kind of when you're next up, Anne Strout, you're going to be first, followed by Diane Martin. So Anne, we're going to invite you to be promoted. Please accept it. I think usually it's a blue button so that we can see and hear you. Takes a second. It does some weird, she like goes into the ether and then comes back as a panelist. I'm sorry. Where did she go? Is she accepting? Come on in.
I don't think she accepted.
Not working. It is not working. Diane Martin, then let's go to you. And after Diane, we have Samuel Polk. So Diane will be sending you a kind of invitation to be promoted, and then you can unmute and be seen if you choose to turn on your camera. Welcome, Diane.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can. Do you want, if you have a camera and you want to turn it on, you're also welcome to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have it set up.
No problem.
So I'm Diane Martin. I live in Cambridge. I live on Madison Avenue, which is less than a block away from the Alewife Brook. I'm here today to talk about poop, and that the poop that something needs to be done about the poop going into the Alewife Brook, and it needs to be done sooner rather than later. Planning should include the MBTA station redevelopment, since the largest CSO in terms of volume is on their property, and restoring nature and incorporating green infrastructure has important health benefits for humans and animals that should be considered. I've been here for 16 years, and I am dismayed at the pace to clean up a public health problem. As a neighbor to Alewife Brook, I know there is a strong sewage smell that permeates the area immediately surrounding the Alewife Brook. And it would be really nice if I could count on being able to walk to CVS in the summer without having to hold my breath. We are facing unpredictable rainfall. I just think that we can do better to address combined sewer overflow, because let's not forget, we're not doing this because we're all good guys and we want to clean it up. Oh yeah, that's probably true. We are good guys, but this is a requirement and it needs to happen faster. So that's what I'm here to ask for. We need to speed this up. And thank you very much for your efforts so far.
Thank you very much, Diane. We will go, oh, yeah, I will stop this so it doesn't look annoying. And we will go to Samuel Polk next, and then Charles Teague, you are after Samuel. So Samuel, you should be able to unmute and also turn on your video if you'd like.
Yeah, hi. I'm Sam. I live in Arlington, and I'm calling in because I'm deeply concerned about the redevelopment of the Alewife station, specifically around the CSOs. There have been a lot of CSOs in marginalized neighborhoods. So this is an environmental justice issue that I really care about. And I just wanted to, I won't take my full 2 minutes, but I really want to urge the state and the local municipalities to ban new sewer connections to the combined system, because there's a risk of having the redevelopment overflow what already is a very fragile system, and then requiring green infrastructure like stormwater storage and sewer protections, or sorry, sewer separations across the entire rebuilding. This would reduce the risk of CSOs, which again affect marginalized communities much more than the more affluent ones in Cambridge, Somerville, and Arlington. And ideally, please coordinate across agencies. I know that that's something that it's important, given that this is a cross-town, cross-agency state effort. And please reach out as soon as you have plans and talk to us. It's important to get, I really would like to be involved in this process as much as I can be. And yeah, thank you again for all the efforts you guys are doing. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Charles Teague and then Michael Lanetto. You're next in the queue. So Charles, you'll receive an invitation to be promoted. Please accept it. Great. Now you should be able to unmute and turn on your video. Great. I think you're unmuted, Charles.
I believe I've started my video too. As you
There
can
you
see,
are.
I'm Jim's evil twin. And so I'm I'm Charles Teague, 90 Jackson Street in Cambridge. And I'm a simple guy and have a simple ask, and it won't take 50 years and billions of dollars. Cambridge should dredge the sediment that's downstream of CAM 401A. It's really sort of easy where the brook is entirely paved. And it should have been done a long time ago and repeated on a schedule. And you shouldn't need all the players. It will increase the flow and reduce the overflows into the parkland and also basements in Arlington. It will reduce the stink. And it's really irresponsible not to do it and flood people's homes. That should be unacceptable. And Cambridge just raised my taxes. They're wasting money left and right. They're going to redo the local park for no reason, and paying $77 million for a fire station. So they still have money to burn and free cash. So I say, write the check, do the right thing, and that's the simple ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. We're going to go to Michael Lanetto. Next up is Daniel Fireside after Michael. So, great, Michael. Welcome.
Hello, am I unmuted? And
You
can hear me?
are.
Okay.
Perfect.
Excellent. Hi, I am a recently retired Somerville resident. I live 3 blocks from the Alewife between Mass Avenue and Broadway, a critical area of the Alewife to me because I live there. I regularly walk my dog along the Alewife when I can, either there or in the other direction towards the Mystic. When I can't do it, it's because it smells terrible. And this is an increasing problem. And I look at the project website and it claims that things have improved. They have not. I have lived here for 12 years or 13 years now. And when I moved here, there were spotted turtles. There were fish in the alewife. There were kingfishers. There were regular wading birds. And now the only time I see wading birds is in the winter when they're sheltering from storms. So this environment has clearly degraded. And, even without being right there and subjected to the immediate flooding of my property, it is a terrible place to live. And why are we putting up with this? This is not a poor community. Why aren't we doing more? I became aware that there was actually a project to do something about this last year. That has been going on for 30 years. How has it taken that long to do something? So anyway, I'll get off my high horse. And I've sort of covered that. It's been a long time since I've seen a fish in the alewife. So I love having a 50-year plan, but what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? What's your 20-year plan? How do you get there? How do you get to keeping this place livable, making this place livable in the first place, and then worrying about the 50-year plan or the 30-year plan? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Next up, we have Daniel Fireside, and then after Daniel will be Clark Fraser. Daniel, welcome. There you are.
Oh, hello. Sorry.
Hello.
Trying to figure out how to look here. I was actually trying to walk to the Alewife brook for this call, but I'm a block short. It's about 4 blocks from my house in Somerville. on Watson Street, and where my family, we've owned a home for about 19 years and raised our 2 kids, including a lot of time along the Alewife Brook. It's the closest place for us to go out and enjoy nature, where my kids love to ride their bicycles. And I was just at a soccer practice at Doughboy Stadium. I'm just trying to emphasize both how essential this is to the neighborhood, to the community. This is a living, essential part of our neighborhood and our kids' experience. I don't want to have to wait for grandkids to have it be cleaned up and not have raw sewage dumped into our neighborhood. We would happily pay more in our sewer bill to take care of this. I can't think of a more appropriate use of public money than taking care of a public resource. I'm also a supporter of the Save Our Alewife Brook and really commend them for helping get the word out.
Great. Thank you so much. Very meta that you are like on site. I love that. We're going to take 2 more public comments. We'll go to Clark Fraser and then Trisha Carney. And then we're going to go to Kristen from Save the Alewife Brook, and then to Matt from the MWRA Advisory Board, and then we'll take more public comment. So let's go. Clark, welcome.
Clark Fraser. I happen to be an outsider now. I live in Hingham. I was elected to sewer commission about 4 years ago, and I'm concerned about MWRA capacity in general. And the question is, are no overflows and CSOs enough? We have a problem now that we have about 3 times the flow at peak wet periods as dry periods. So I'm trying to push very hard to get rid of what we call infiltration and inflow into the system, because that's costing our ratepayers a lot of money. But I'm also concerned about the fact that we can't sewer the rest of the town, and that Hull has to try to process their wastewater right next to the ocean. They had a 2 million gallon spill when waves overtopped. So we're caught between I and climate change. And I'm just wondering whether this program is catching up, or is it going to just to barely keep up, or can we actually get ahead of this? I think that rates would be lower if we could process less water. And I would hope that the MWRA would seriously consider building a treatment plant to the west so that less water comes down in the system from long distances, and that more towns along the shore can connect up. We connected here in the 90s, and before that you couldn't swim in the river. I kayak in the river in Weir River every day, and I'm seeing algae, and we're seeing a lot of changes. I don't think things are getting better, and it's my concern is, what can we do to make our systems work better and to the water cleaner. I'm also concerned that septic systems are dumping chemicals into the ground like PFAS, and that's now showing up in our drinking water. Thank you. And that's, by the way, the Weir River behind me.
I love that picture. Thank you. Thank you, Clark. We're going to go to Trisha Carney, and then we will go to Kristen Anderson. Trisha, if you will accept the invitation to be promoted. There, you're coming in. Trisha, yeah, you can. Perfect.
Okay. I'm Trisha Carney, and I'll get my video on. I live in Cambridge. As a mom, I have a 16-year-old son who spends a lot of time on the Charles River. The past 8 years, he's been sailing, doing sailing flip tests, so he's actually in the water. He's a rower, he kayaks, and he's also worked on the Charles River for the Boston Kayak and Canoe business. And he basically gets water on him constantly. So I think he's just one of many children who really loves the Charles River and uses it. And these children are being exposed to the water, and it's a big health concern. Personally, as a rower, I row for Riverside Boat Club, and as a rower, we do get the water on us, and it's normal to have backsplash, and it gets on our face, it gets in our mouth, and it is a health issue. I'm also a competitor of the Head of the Charles, and there's 12,000 rowers that come to compete, and it is a big event. It's the largest rowing event in the world. Tons and tons of people mention to me when I'm traveling. I just mentioned Boston, and you would not believe the amount of people who mention the Charles River, even if they're not a rower. So the Charles River really is the heart of Boston. People know it. It's a tourist attraction, and it is the world's most natural resource rowing course that offers the largest rowing competition. So thank you so much. And if you could eliminate the CSOs, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Tricia. I feel like we're really seeing all the different ways that people interact with the river, that these rivers that run right through our homes and our communities. Kristen Anderson, you are up, and I know you have some slides, but I'll let you say hi before we put those up. We're going to promote you right now. There you are. Oh, no, there aren't what? So we have, Kristen, we have you in twice. There are 2 Kristen Andersons. We're going to promote both and hopefully figure out where's your audio and where's your video.
I'm not sure the other one is able to accept.
Okay, Kristen, can you unmute and turn on your video? Oh, no. Oh.
Hello?
Hey.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Hi. So my name is Kristen Anderson, and I just first want to start by thanking the good folks, the project planners here from Cambridge, Somerville, and MWRA and CBI for giving us the opportunity to present and to allow the public to be heard. And I especially want to thank everyone who's come out tonight to speak in favor of ending sewage pollution in our rivers. And before I get into the presentation, I just want to say that I pay my sewer bills and I support the needed investment in ending sewage pollution in our rivers, Alewife Brook, Mystic River, and the Charles. And I'm really here today because Alewife Brook flooded into my home multiple times. Untreated sewage floodwater came into my house and into my neighbors' homes right through the back door. My neighbors and I had no idea what was in that water. We were trying to save our belongings when we were exposed to sewage in the floodwater, and we got sick. I'm talking gross digestive illness, painful cramps, and bloody diarrhea. This is an environmental justice neighborhood, and it is downstream of all 6 active combined sewer outfalls in Alewife Brook. And I think you can start the slides now. Thank you. And thank you for giving me a safe space to be vulnerable like that. So next slide, please. So I'm here this evening with David White, David Stoff, Jean Benson, and Ann McDonald and we are founders of Save the Alewife Brook. Save the Alewife Brook is a growing grassroots environmental group. We currently have several thousand supporters in Cambridge, Somerville, Arlington, Belmont, Medford, and beyond. Since 2023, Save the Alewife Brook has been meeting monthly with the Mystic River and Charles River Watershed Associations. Next slide, please. Alewife Brook floods, and the floodwaters contain hazardous and fecal coliform polluted sewage from the sewers of Cambridge and Somerville. Next slide, please. In 2023, the brook flooded over its bank 5 times, sending untreated sewage pollution into the Alewife Greenway on DCR parkland. We saw children riding bikes through untreated sewage floodwater. We saw joggers running through it, and we saw parents pushing baby strollers through untreated sewage floodwater. The situation is horrifying. The Alewife Greenway is a busy multi-use path that links Somerville, Arlington, and Cambridge residents to the Alewife Red Line T-Stop and Minuteman Bikeway. Next slide, please. Here is a map of the 6 active Alewife CSO outfalls. All sewage discharges here are untreated and flow through a densely populated area with about 5,000 people living in the Alewife's 100-year floodplain, including multiple environmental justice neighborhoods. Unhoused people live along the brook in some of the area's most flood-prone areas on DCR parkland. And Alewife Brook flows into the Mystic River. Paddle Boston Boat Rentals is just downstream of Alewife Brook. What goes into Alewife Brook ends up in the Mystic River. Alewife Brook sewage pollution impacts the use of the Mystic River. Next slide, please. In 2023, 29 million gallons of untreated sewage pollution was dumped into Alewife Brook. In 2021, 51 million gallons. Climate change is expected to worsen the problem. Heavier and more frequent rainstorms will increase sewage pollution volumes. These volumes could rise by 4 times in the year 2050 if nothing is done. Next slide, please. Alewife Brook CSOs are only authorized to discharge up to 7.29 million gallons of sewage pollution total in an average or typical year. This is per the second stipulation of the Boston Harbor cleanup court case. In 2023, sewage overflows were 4 times worse than what the court permits, and in 2021, 7 times worse. Next slide, please. We want to take a look quickly at the 2 worst combined sewer outfalls in Alewife Brook. The first one shown here is Somerville's Tannery Brook CSO. Toilet paper hangs from the trees by Somerville's Tannery Brook CSO. Mass DEP has taken action to address this violation of so-called floatables control. This is one of the dirty 6 sewer overflows that are out of compliance with the Harbor cleanup court case. The Tannery Brook CSO discharges far more sewage than is permitted. Next slide, please. Here is a pretty disgusting photo of CAM 401A. It also is not in compliance with the court case, and it is the worst offender where millions of gallons of pollution are released containing human excrement and industrial waste spewing next to the Alewife MBTA garage and through their land. In 2023, 20 million gallons of sewage pollution was dumped from this one outfall. That was equal to 2/3 of all the sewage pollution in Alewife Brook that year. 2/3 of the problem in 2023 came from this one outfall. Next slide, please. But I have to say, this is there's a tremendous opportunity. This MBTA site can be used to virtually eliminate sewage pollution from the Alewife Brook's worst combined sewer outfall. And so tonight we have 3 asks of the project planners. Number 1, we are asking the MWRA and Cambridge to collaborate with MBTA to include underground CSO detention tanks and green stormwater infrastructure on the MBTA Alewife site. Cambridge, MWRA, and MBTA must work together to solve the problem for Cambridge's CAM 401A outfall and MWRA's nearby MWR 003 outfall. Second ask is that MWRA, Cambridge, and Somerville work with Department of Conservation and Recreation. And our third ask is we ask for virtual CSO elimination, which is engineered 25-year CSO storm control by the year 2035. Really, we would like to see it done by 2030, but realistically, 2035. And this should be achieved with a combination of sewer separation, green stormwater infrastructure, and storage. Last slide, please. We want to acknowledge, oh, I'm sorry. I meant to have you skip to this slide already. Sorry about that, I messed up. And lastly, we want to acknowledge that Mass DEP agrees that improvements must be made, and they've included a bunch of awesome new requirements in their 2024 water quality variants. We appreciate that, and thank you. Thanks again to everybody who is here tonight.
Thank you very much, Kristen. All right, we're gonna go to Matt Romero from the MWRA Advisory Board for our final kind of extended comments, and then we'll go back to kind of more general public comments. Matt, welcome.
Great, just checking audio and visual. Okay, there we go. Excellent.
Perfect.
Let me just get myself set up here. Hold on. That is quite disorienting when they kick you out and then bring you back in. All right.
Here, right?
Thank you, everyone. There we go. Thank you, everyone. The MWRA Advisory Board represents the 43 communities that pay for the wastewater system. We serve as a financial watchdog, working to ensure that investments in clean water are sound, sustainable, and fair to the ratepayers who fund them. We do this in part through our 3 representatives on the MWRA Board of Directors. Now that I've covered who we are and the role that we play, on the next slide, we can recap the MWRA's achievements to date. Now, there's no doubt that the original CSO plan was a major environmental and public health success. It closed 43 CSOs, reduced total overflow volume by 87%, and ensured that 95% of what remains is treated. Now, that was a $911 million investment. That's a little over $1.5 billion in today's dollars. And it delivered transformative results. What used to be called America's dirtiest harbor now features some of the cleanest urban beaches in the country. That said, CSO control comes at cost. And on the next slide, we'll break that down. What's the cost of control? This slide offers a different perspective. This is especially important now that we're looking at the updated long-term control plan options that were presented by MWRA, Cambridge, and Somerville. We're used to talking about progress in terms of percent reduction or treatment, like on the previous slide, or as you've seen in many previous presentations. But here we're asking, what are we paying per gallon of CSO controlled? Well, that's a new lens. What's the cost per gallon? Looking at it through that frame, the numbers are pretty stark. The original plan cost about $1.44 per gallon in today's dollars. The new plan on the highest end clocks in at over $23 per gallon, over 16 times higher. The original plan took on just over 1 billion gallons of untreated CSO. The updated plan would manage less than 200 million gallons, about 18% of the original plan's volume, yet at more than 3 times the cost. It's the same ratepayers funding it, but for a fraction of the return. This seems like something that's important to consider as part of the cost-benefit analysis of the final long-term control plan. Now, some have asked whether focusing on cost means we're ignoring public health. We want to be clear. We care deeply about clean water and safe, livable communities. But spending $4.7 billion on less than 200 million gallons could mean that we're not leaving room for higher impact investments elsewhere. And that's a public health risk too. Now, you might be asking, why is this all so expensive? And we'll take that on in the next slide. So we support the overall goal of improving water quality, but we do need to be honest about the costs. There just aren't any quick wins anymore. These new projects are multi-decade, billion-dollar projects designed for events that may occur once every 25 years. The impacts of climate change mean that CO2 volumes will fluctuate from year to year, and the infrastructure needed now, massive tunnels, deep storage, it's more complex, disruptive, and expensive than anything that's been done before. We supported the original $1.52 billion in CSO work that improved water quality across Boston Harbor and the local rivers because it made a big difference. Today, we're simply asking whether the next $4.7 billion is going to deliver the same kind of benefit. I'll wrap it up on this next slide with the advisory board's position and our hope for the progress moving forward. As I mentioned before, we want to see water quality continue to improve, but we need to be strategic about how we do it. The advisory board's position is clear. We should meet all regulatory obligations while advocating for regulatory leniency or receiving water classification adjustments where appropriate. We need to focus on projects that give the most benefit for the dollars spent. We need to ensure that future CSO costs are distributed appropriately between the Somerville, Cambridge, and MWRA ratepayers. And lastly, we need to minimize MWRA's long-term operations and maintenance commitments, the cost of which will fall squarely on MWRA communities and ultimately the ratepayers. This isn't about opposing clean water. It's about making sure every dollar we spend moves the needle as far as possible. We share the goal of protecting public health and the environment, and we believe smart, fair, and focused spending is the best way to get there. Thank you so much for your giving me the time tonight, and I look forward to all the rest of the comments today. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Great. All right, now we are in the portion of the program where we're really listening to members of the public who get their few moments. We'll next up, again, a reminder, if you just joined, you can raise your virtual hand if you would like to get in the queue. Right now we have 17 people in line to speak, to give everybody a sense. Next up is Eppa Rixey, and after Eppa is Tom Pounds. Eppa, welcome. We're going to promote you so you can be seen and heard.
Okay, let's see if this works. All right, can you see me okay?
Perfect.
Perfect. Hi, my name's Eppa Rixey. I live at Harvey Street in Cambridge, very close to Alewife Brook. I'm on the leadership team for the Alewife Study Group, as well as a member of Save the Alewife Brook and a supporter of Green Cambridge. I appreciate all the hard work by the many folks who are on this call, as well as the many public servants and citizens who have worked on this issue over the years. I echo the concerns and great ideas that were expressed by the Charles River Watershed Association, MWRA, MRWA, Save the Alewife Brook, Diane Martin, and others. Costs are a very important factor here, but it's also critically important to consider the value to the community and nature in these environmental justice areas. And I really agree with this idea of a triple bottom line that was expressed by the Charles River Watershed Association. There are huge opportunities in the Alewife area. This used to be a vast swamp that was rich in natural resources, and it could be that again in select areas. And I think the Alewife Stormwater Wetland is a tremendous example of what could be done. And it's right here in our backyard, and we have performance data on it from a long period of time that we can use as a precedent. We really need to work to restore the river through dredging, as Charlie Teague suggested, and establishing natural areas that help with stormwater, flooding, human health, quality of life, and the value of natural resources in this rare urban wild. Furthermore, the MBTA needs to be at the table on this. The Alewife Station rebuild is a huge opportunity where we could incorporate gray and green infrastructure into the design and the RFP for that process that is literally unfolding as we speak. I would urge the MBTA to rescind that RFP and incorporate some of these elements into the RFP, but they haven't shared the RFP with the public yet, despite numerous demands to do so. Furthermore, climate change demands action on this sooner rather than later, taking into account this massively growing problem. I have an 18-month-old daughter, and I really genuinely wonder how much worse this is going to get in her lifetime growing up here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you so much, Appa. Next up is Tom Pounds. Tom, welcome, and after Tom will be Alex Pringle. Tom, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
And here I am.
Perfect.
More station identification from the rowing community. So my name's Tom Pounds. I'm associated with Cambridge Boat Club, and along with CRWA, and I'm very active at Mass Audubon as well. I started rowing on the Charles 50 years ago, and I'm out typically on the Charles 80 to 100 times a year. Just a couple numbers to put the active use at our club in context. We put about 25,000 people on the water every year just off our dock. And to build on Tricia's comments on the head of the Charles earlier, in addition to attracting 12,000 athletes to the head of the Charles, 400,000 spectators to the banks, it generates about $100 million of economic activity. So the Charles is just an incredible asset, and its cleanup has been an incredible success story. Obviously, we face a very different situation than the people in Alewife Brook who are facing flooding of sewage into their homes. But I really want to make sure that we focus on not backsliding on the incredible progress we've made on the Charles. I was kind of struck by the Stantec report that was published at the end of last year that still seemed to focus on 1990 flows for planning. And I think I'm hearing today that 2050 forecasts are being used for planning now. That makes a lot of sense to me. I'd like to make sure that happens. And I guess I'll also throw in a word for green infrastructure. I live on a street that has a swale incorporated. I think it's a great asset to the neighborhood. Valuable part of the solution here. And though I hear these scary cost estimates of $4.3 billion to address the problem, I'd really like to see us figure out how we can spend 20% of that to get to a 80% solution if we can. Thank you very much, and thanks for everybody's efforts on this. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Alex Pringle, welcome. We're going to promote you. And next up after Alex will be Alan Hausar. Alex.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, minor glitch here. I was all set up and I hit the wrong button and bang, I thought I lost you. Hi, my name is Alex Pringle. I'm a 76-year-old guy living on Fairmount Street in East Arlington, number 50, mostly on Social Security. I'll explain why I said that in a minute. I've been here since 1984, and in all that time, I've seen very, very little improvement in the situation at Alewife Brook, which is one block from where I live. By contrast, about 2 years ago, I had an oil leak in my basement. About 10 gallons of oil got through the floor of my basement. I had no insurance. An insurance rider is available, but nobody tells you about it, and insurance companies are not obligated to. I had to pay well over $50,000 out of my retirement funds to clean up about 10 gallons of oil spill that never left the footprint of my house. So I have rather difficult feelings when, on the other hand, I wait 40 years to see minimal improvement in what's going into Alewife Brook a block away. Having said all that, I'd like to get to a couple of other points. One of them is I'm a little bit disappointed that I don't see anybody from Arlington on your panel. I realize that the CSOs are from Cambridge and Somerville, but a vast majority of the people affected live in Arlington directly on the brook. And I would have hoped somebody from Arlington would be empaneled to discuss this. A couple of other things. I too, like one of the people previously said that I've seen people pushing baby carriages through polluted sewage water, bikers. At the very least, there should be more warning signs put up so that people can actually understand that there could be sewage in these places. Most people don't have the slightest clue. Another thing I'd like to mention is the amount of trash and garbage in Alewife Brook. When I take a walk from Mass Ave all the way up to the Mystic River, I see endless amounts of stolen shopping carts, garbage, plastic bags, and other stuff. I know the Save the Alewife Brook people have done efforts to go up and down there and clean it out. But I think that the towns really should take that as a responsibility. And also, it has to be done regularly. It can't just be done once and then forget it.
Alex, I'm gonna have you wrap up. I'm sorry, do you want one more sentence?
Yeah, I just have a little bit more I wanted to say. Besides keeping that clean and a desperately hoped for remediation, I appreciate that these things cost billions of dollars. But the billions of dollars don't affect me personally. What affects me personally is what happens in my backyards and to my neighbors and to my friends. And I also am really concerned about what this is doing to animals. There are dozens of animal species.
I'm really sorry. I'm gonna have to switch because we have 20 other people waiting.
That's okay. I just one last thing. Your future projections.
We're gonna bring in Alan. I'm sorry, Alex.
Double them.
Alan Hausar, I'm sorry if I'm not saying your last name correctly. You are up, and then Christine Liu after. Alan, welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Alan Hauser. I live in East Arlington, just a few hundred feet from the Alewife Brook. I've only lived here about 2 years. My wife and I chose to move here just before our second daughter was born. And I only became aware of these issues with the Alewife Brook and CSOs within the last few months. I need to give credit to Save the Alewife Brook for bringing attention to the issue and making me aware of it. The fact that I wasn't aware of it means that I almost certainly ran through and walked my daughter's stroller through some of the floodwaters that Kristen showed just a little bit ago. I was unaware of the lack of posting, lack of communication about them. And upon becoming aware of this activity at this joint committee, upon reading about the January meeting and reading through and watching the video of it, I was dismayed by the time scale of the project and absence of near-term actions. My biggest concern is that not only we have contaminated waterways, but because of the flooding that occurs in East Arlington, there's an acute public health risk that is different than just the risks from recreation and someone boating or kayaking, things that we definitely need to also solve. But the absence of near-term mitigation actions to address acute public health risks seems a really glaring fault. And in any responsible public health problem, troubleshooting, seems that it should include both near-term mitigation activities and long-term robust solutions. And I would ask that the Arlington community that you certainly see maybe overrepresented in this call is reflective of the fact that there are acute risks, acute concerns for our residents' health that maybe don't seem to be currently addressed by the actions of this team. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Next up is Christine Liu, and then Libby Shaw after Christine. Christine, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Christine Liu. So I'm wearing two hats tonight. One hat is my professional hat, which is I'm the Communications and Advocacy Manager at the Charles River Conservancy. And I'm also a resident of Somerville. And I just wanted to echo, all the great comments tonight, especially Max at the Charles River Watershed Association agree. We work very closely with them, and really our focus on the Charles River, such a great resource in the city. We want it to be a safe and accessible place for all to enjoy. We work very closely with DCR to make sure those parks and the river are as clean as possible, and eliminating CSOs would make a huge impact. We one of those annual swims in the river, City Splash, we put that on every summer, and it's like so popular. Everyone is like, why can't we do this every day? Especially with rising temperatures and just, things that are free and fun to do with your friends and your family. And we're like, yeah, we wish we could do this every day, and it can be done, but because of the overflows and just, it's not always safe. It's sometimes safe to swim. That's not a reality. So we really have this vision of a swimmable and fishable river. Also, just want to emphasize the value and benefit and ease of installing green infrastructure to combat a lot of the issues here with stormwater. We have the floating wetland in the Charles River right by Longfellow Bridge, one of the many tools in the toolbox for green infrastructure and cleaning up our waterways and inviting more biodiversity in the river. So I invite you, if you have any questions or wish to talk to us, we're here for you. Thank you.
Very much. Next up is Libby Shaw, and then I'm going to give the partners a chance to say any kind of key things they want to respond to before we keep going with public comment. Libby, welcome.
Thank you. I'm here as a representative from a different town, but one very much bordering the Charles River Watertown. I'm president of Trees for Watertown, and I'm also a member of the activist organization in support of the Alewife Brook. I'm here to echo Max of the Charles River Watershed Association when he talks about the importance of trying to incorporate nature-based designs to the fullest extent to reduce the overflow into our waterways. And of course, one of the easiest and I think least expensive and most impactful in so many ways, not just in terms of reducing the stormwater, is to preserve existing trees, preserve existing big trees. They absorb, each big, healthy existing tree is absorbing hundreds of thousands of gallons of stormwater a year. They do all kinds of things interacting with the local soil to make the soil help act as a sponge to absorb overflow from the storms that we're going to be getting more and more of. So I'm just here to remind everyone that this is a really important kind of nature-based solution, and much less expensive than other things. And in particular, when we're talking about the rebuilding of the Alewife project over there, we need to be thinking about preserving existing trees as well as building ways to contain the outfall from that project. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Libby. All right, I'm going to give the project partners and I think Rich a chance to just share a couple of quick thoughts. And then we're going to go to a break after Rich. And then we have like 15 more people who are speaking. So that's the timeline here. Rich.
First of all, I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to log on and either attend and listen or turn their camera on and present their thoughts. I think it's very important that we have this sort of feedback for our process here. And I think I speak for all of the project partners that we understand the sentiment being expressed by our rowers, our walkers, our bikers, our users of the rivers, and I really appreciate the enthusiasm that we have here. Again, this was primarily intended as a listening session. We did sort of carve out some time for Brian, Jim, and I to make some points in case we heard anything that was misleading or wrong or cast in the wrong light. And that's sort of what this part of this break is about. I think generally everyone has been very much on point, but I do want to sort of point out sort of a framework or constraint in which this team of Cambridge, Somerville, and MWRA are currently working. There have been a number of points brought up, all of which are completely valid, all of which need attention, but some of which are outside of the control of Cambridge and Somerville and MWRA. This team that is doing this work that we've been reporting on in the 4 previous meetings and will continue to report on. This framework was essentially set up at the end or when the MWRA and the member communities embarked on that long-term control plan that Matt Romero pointed out did such a wonderful job of cleaning up the harbor. And at that time, the analysis that went into those projects that did all that great work, there was an acknowledgement that it wasn't quite going to get to where the state wanted to be for the Alewife, Mystic, and Charles. And so at that time, there was sort of a condition put on that once all that work was done, that Cambridge, Somerville, and MWRA would reevaluate where we are at that time, how effective the previous plan was, and then do additional work. And so that framework was essentially set out in the late 90s and then reaffirmed with some specificity by DEP, basically in 2023. And so we're these 3 parties are working within that framework. And that's specifically why the town of Arlington isn't represented here. It's also important to note that what we're evaluating is within the framework of federal regulations on combined sewer overflows. So what we're looking at are the tools that we can leverage within that sort of world. And it's not going to solve all the problems that are being brought up here. The idea of dredging, the idea of flooding. There are other items that, to Matt Romero's point, maybe we can invest wisely in some of those other aspects. We don't, we're alongside those things, but we're not directly affiliated with them. So I think a lot of this advocacy also has to go and energize other state departments, Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, various other ones that are better poised to solve some of those problems. So I don't say that to deflect from the importance of what we're trying to do here, but I just want to raise awareness that there are other things that need to be done, and there are other stakeholders and responsible parties that can deliver those solutions. So I want to continue to support this advocacy, this sort of outreach that we see here, but make sure that we're directing that to some additional parties that are outside of this.
Thank you. We're going to take a 10-minute break because everyone is fresher if they don't sit still for a long, long, long time. So it is 7:30. We will start again at 7:40. You don't need to leave the Zoom, but you might, like attendees, we can't see you anyway. So you can just stay as you are, and we will start again at 7:40. Panelists, you can turn off your camera and mute. And we will come back and we will do a bunch more public comment. Right now we have 13 people with their hands up. So we'll look forward to hearing from you in a few minutes. Thank you. All right, we're gonna go to our next public comment. Up in the queue, first up is John Rumpler and then Ann Stewart. Then Abby, thank you, Abby, just put in the chat where to sign up to receive alerts about CSOs, just so they're easy to find. John, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for holding this public listening session. My name is John Rumpler. I'm the Clean Water Director with Environment Massachusetts, and all of its sister organizations across the country in 31 states. We are a statewide environmental group, Environment Massachusetts, supported by thousands of members in every single one of MWRA's service area communities, including, of course, Somerville, Cambridge, Arlington, and so forth. So thank you for this session. I'm here to stand, as might not be a surprise, in defense of clean water. I want to echo the comments of many others that we need to end sewage overflows and we need to do it as quickly as we can. This is not really a negotiable thing when you've got people's public health at risk, when you've got odors outside of people's homes that they can barely walk outside, as you've heard from many of the nearby residents. I heard a call for regulatory leniency. I would say, with all due respect, there's been decades of regulatory leniency, which has gotten us to this point. I would just say we wholeheartedly also endorse the idea of nature-based solutions, but I fear they will not be enough on their own to end sewage overflows. Our analysis of sewage overflows in cities like Philadelphia shows that the benefits of green infrastructure are being reduced by the impacts of climate change. So we're going to need to do the hard stuff too. The last thing I want to say is it seems like the biggest barrier to this is funding. We need to look for new sources of funding, whether that's from the state or state stormwater utility bonds. But I also want to emphasize that we are a partner. We are a partner fighting for that funding. Next week, I will be in Washington, D.C. with my colleagues from 20 states around the country lobbying Congress for full funding of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. We want to fight to get you the resources you need to do the job. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Ann Stewart, we're going to promote you, and after Ann will be Beth Malevchik. Ann, you're being promoted. Excellent. Welcome.
Sorry. My name is Ann Stewart. I live in the heart of development. You may or may not know, but you certainly know if you live in Alewife that we are expecting in the next decades thousands of people to be working or living here. So we keep saying stop using Alewife Brook as a cesspool, and that's certainly a good reason when you look at the future. So 13 acres of state-owned land at Alewife T Station is the exact location of the biggest fecal coliform polluted waste releases into Alewife Brook after heavy rains. And you know which pipe I'm talking about, next to the garage, next to the garage's ramp. So this needs to be fixed, obviously. And I'd like to suggest that you've just been given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to solve this regional sewage problem on 13 acres of state-owned land. The requests for proposals to redevelop Alewife T Station Garage have been issued, and the secret bids are already coming in. What do? Step 1, you ask Governor Healy to prevail upon the MBTA to withdraw the RFP immediately. That can be done. Step 2, you get the RFP rewritten so the protection of public health is the #1 objective, and the same goes for your own sewage remediation plan. Step 3, as far as funding, it's not up to the MWRA, the MBTA, DCR, or other agencies or private developers to bear the cost. In Alewife, Cambridge School Department is not bearing the cost of constructing a 1 million gallon storage tank under the new Tobin School. Instead, it should be the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the cities sending their toilet flushes into Alewife Brook and over its banks onto public pathways and into basements to fund the green and gray infrastructure. James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced.
Thank you, Ann. Beth Malevchik, you are up, and then Louis Weitzman, you are after. Beth, you should be seeing a invitation to be promoted, which you'll need to accept. There you are. Beth, can you unmute and turn on your video? There you are, but we are not hearing you. We're seeing you, but not hearing you. Now you're muted. We cannot hear you. I think let's keep Beth promoted. And I'm gonna say, Louis Weitzman, come in and give your comment, and we'll give Beth a second to look around. And after Louis and Beth, David Stoff, you're gonna be the third in line. Louis, welcome.
Hi, I had time to finish my dinner. Quite a discussion, quite an important discussion, and certainly I'm thankful for all the interest, the fact the meeting was held with the public, but I am not reassured from this meeting that this is getting the kind of front page news it really ought to. We have an open sewage pit in the middle of a neighborhood abutting homes. Tens of thousands of people live nearby. And what I hear is a process that people are describing all the great successes of the harbor cleanup. As far as I'm concerned, it's a disaster. And it almost seems like that's being used as a deflection to say, you know, well, we don't have to, we're doing great. I don't want to hear that. If you're going to have a meeting in our neighborhood, we have a public health emergency. There shouldn't have been any discussion about the rest of the harbor. Frankly, I'm not concerned about that. Water in the harbor will get washed away by the tides. This stuff just sits there. It's disgusting. It's a health hazard. It ought to be treated that way. And every person that speaks here ought to be speaking with the same concern that you'll notice every neighbor, every person, like I live nearby, I walk through that area. It's disgusting. And I'm sure that there are bad public health outcomes happening with those kids, everything that was described, Christine, flood, sewage in her basement. So at the very first action ought to be a recognition this is an immediate threat to the public health. There ought to be studies done so we can figure out what is happening. I'm not interested in MWRA's talking about their budgets. This is like you have people who are in a water drowning, and somebody up there is saying, well, you know, when you get down, we're going to put a robe on you. We're not concerned. We'd like this to be treated as much of a concern as anyone that lives here. Anyone else who speaks on this issue, if they're not speaking in the tone that I'm speaking, they're not representing my interests. So I would urge everyone to take a different position here. This is a public health emergency. It's disgusting. It's an open sewer pit right out of tens of thousands of people's houses. Please, whoever's involved, do something. I really am hoping not to get involved, but after this meeting, I have the distinct feeling that people like me need to get involved. Probably there needs to be a lawsuit, which started the only cleanup in the harbor. Perhaps there needs to be another one out here because I do not hear concern that is appropriate with the emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, welcome, Beth.
Okay, terrific. Arlington unwillingly hosts an open sewer for the benefit of the wealthier communities of Cambridge and Somerville, and for MWRA. Cambridge, Somerville, and MWRA are okay with the status quo, okay with dumping untreated raw sewage into East Arlington, the most, I believe, of any of the tributaries and the rivers there. We get the untreated sewage. This is a sacrifice that you, Cambridge, Somerville, and MWRA, are willing to make. We pay the price, but you are the ones who are deciding the price that we pay. Dumping untreated sewage into East Arlington is a design feature of a public wastewater system for 100 years. A concrete storage box will not replicate the multitude of complex functions of a healthy riparian ecosystem. We want the CSOs closed, the raw sewage dumping ceased, and Alewife Brook returned to health. I understand the EPA has asked for dredging. Let's do it. That can be done in the short term. And you hear my passion. I frankly was offended that the advisory board dude, I just found that presentation offensive as an Arlington resident. We're an open sewer for the benefit of wealthier communities. So fix it. And if the current team cannot think outside the box and are burdened and inhibited by the framework, change the framework, change the team. I agree with Mr. Weitzman. We need to get this done. We don't want to hear about, we pay our sewer bills, we pay our water bills. When are you people going to get the message? How many of these meetings do we need to come to with this, frankly, BS? Seriously. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I said thank you, but I was muted, of course. Thanks, Beth. David Stoff, you are up. And after David will be Heather Hoffman. Hi, David.
Am I audible?
You are.
Very good. Yeah. Hi, I'm David Stoff. Every time we have one of these meetings, I disclaim my organizational affiliations and say, I am an abutter to the Alewife Brook. I live at 88 Fairmont Street in Arlington, but I know every one of these panelists. And I am tired and I am freaking terrified of the project you're talking about building here. Brian Kabaskas, it was you who said at one of the many meetings that the people who will have a drop shaft put in front of their house have a different point of view than people who are advocating for sewer separation. Well, I'm wearing both hats, you know, and I really would like to see that you provide a forum for technical questions to be answered so we have a better sense of the project you're designing. And to that end, I'm looking at the screen. At one time or another, I have had to send a public records request to I think every one of you. And if Matt Romero is there, to him too. And I asked recently that you release the meeting notes of your CSO working group with EPA and DEP. And I noticed in the last public records request where I got those meeting notes that you declined to post them. But I'd ask you to reconsider that because to me, I think the transparency that you pride yourself on is going to be measured on whether or not you provide that level of detailed information. And I would ask you to consider at least circulating those notes, adding, Max Rome or Patrick Heron to that circulation list so that that detailed information gets to the watershed associations, at least so that we are efficient participants in the process and we can respond with the kind of questions and information that you need to know. And if Matt Romero is here, I'm still waiting to meet with you, and I hope that you would schedule that because I really think that putting a price on stormwater accepted into the MWRA system is something that you should consider because it's a burden that falls on other ratepayer communities, and it's disproportionate what 3 or 4 communities contribute a lot to your problem, and maybe they should be paying the price. Time goes fast, doesn't it?
Thank you, David. Next up, we have Heather Hoffman and then Peg McAdam. And for those trying to gauge the time, our list is about 8 more speakers. Heather, welcome.
Thank you. Heather Hoffman, 213 Hurley Street, Cambridge. And for anyone who knows the geography of Cambridge, I am not an abutter. I'm not a rower. But I care an awful lot about my friends who live in the area. And I care about the health of all of the wildlife around this CSO. So I am a title examiner, and one of the things you've made me think about is something I read about when I was doing a title to a private way in the Back Bay. And that was what happened when the Charles River got so full of sewage and so stinky that they bought up a whole lot of land, leveled everything on it, and then built it up so that they could then start putting more sewage in the Charles River. I hope it's a fascinating report, and there it is at the Registry of Deeds. It's quite folksy as well. So we have done big things like that. That was a huge thing. We did the Big Dig. We cleaned up Boston Harbor. This area actually does big things. Even though people claim now that big things are a thing of the past, they aren't, and they don't have to be. You will hear from people who know a ton more than I do. But I'm someone who, in the course of my job, sees a whole lot of history. And what I see is that things like this are possible, and you have so much technical expertise and energy available to you from people in this area that we need to do it. And then there's that 13 acres and the huge, huge project that's going to be going there. It's a mighty good opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Peg McAdam, you are up next, and then Ann McDonald. Peg, welcome. Wait, we cannot hear you. I think you're on mute.
Got it? Excellent, thank you. My name's Peg. I live at the end of Sunnyside, probably the lowest in elevation of the whole brook. And I've been here 7 years. First off, I just want to thank everyone. I'm so grateful for the interest and the expertise that has been presented at these meetings. And, you know, people are coming for the first time. I've been doing this, I think, since this started. So I appreciate the passion. I've been there. I've appreciated the sadness. I've been there. I just know that when I first moved here, there was a meeting over at Tufts for a weekend about the Alewife Brook. And that's when I learned about the CSOs 7 years ago. And the comment that stands out is I feel bad for the people on Sunnyside Ave. You know, so I know that part of it. But what I want to do really was to be grateful. I'm very grateful for the work that's being done. I echo a lot of the comments. I was also very upset with Matt's very slick presentation of the money piece. It's like, it's not going to get any cheaper, guys. We've known about this for 125 years. Let's get it done. It's going to cost a lot of money. And finally, I just want to invite you all to come down to the end of Sunnyside and walk behind where I've developed a garden of wildflowers. And there's probably about a couple thousand daffodils in the process of coming to bloom. And daffodils are a flower of hope. And that's what I'm bringing. I'm bringing hope. I might not see the end of this, but I'm in the process. So thank you all for your work and have a good night.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Ann McDonald next, and then we'll give Brian, I think, a chance to share thoughts. Ann, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Peg. I love your spot along the Alewife. I go there all the time. My name's Ann McDonald. I'm a North Cambridge resident. I also serve on the steering committee of Save the Alewife Brook, and I am an abutter. I look out my front window at the brook's concrete channel and nearby sewer vents. I kayaked the brook last summer after DCI removed debris that allowed partial passage, and yes, I did get grossed out and sick just afterwards, but that experience showed me the amazing possibilities a boatable brook would add to our neighborhood. I walk along the Alewife Brook, the Greenway Path, and into the Alewife Reservation by Yates and Jerry's Pond almost every day. This area is in frequent use by thousands of walkers, bikers, runners, and young children. So that photo that Christian showed, the little girl in the pink jumpsuit on her bike on the Greenway Path, what it doesn't show is that she was screaming loudly for help from her father, who was behind her with her baby brother on another bike, and that she was panicked because she was stuck in this ankle-deep water and mud. And I felt helpless as I knew it was sewage-laden water. They didn't, I don't think. Many of us subscribe to these alerts for CSO discharges in the Alewife and Mystic, and it seems every time there's a heavy rain lately, the alerts start flowing in the middle of the night. So we're thankful we can subscribe to like 3 to find out what's happening in our neighborhood, but we need to do better for her baby brother, and all our kids. I observe every day the contrast of care and neglect in this area. So I've lived through multiple years of sewer separation in the Whittemore area, care. But that's contrasted with 20+ years of horrible wafting odors as we walk across Alewife Brook Parkway at Mass Ave. But despite these contrasts, I really love the brook and the surrounding area, the former Great Swamp, the constructed stormwater wetlands, manage stormwater from other parts of Cambridge, but they really have enhanced our neighborhood and increased access to and connection with nature. So thank you for all that were involved in that. But we need you, our experts, to come together and prioritize the river, the creatures, and the community, find ways to act now and plan incrementally for innovative green and gray infrastructure to stop the raw sewage from being dumped into the Alewife Brook while paying attention to the flooding impacts in the area. Please find ways to coordinate across city and state agencies and innovatively prioritize the Alewife MBTA station complex site. It's the site of the worst polluting Alewife CSO outfall, as other people have shown. Pull the RFP as outlined by Eppa or Christian and Anne. Jeremy, I believe it was you who introduced yourself to me a couple of weeks ago when I ran across the parkway because I was so excited to see your team measuring odors at the pink painted vent. Yeah, it's me. Thank you. And it was puzzling but it's puzzling to me that Kleinfelder is using a remote odor monitoring method at the Tannery Brook. So I hope you guys are coordinating, please. But thank you for being out there in person. That's cool.
Thank you, Anne, very much. We are going to we're going to give Brian a chance if he has thoughts, anything he wants to mention in response to what we've been hearing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ona. And thank you, everyone. Thanks, Anne, for your comments. I think, rest assured, we are coordinating. This group here meets on a regular basis. We meet weekly, bi-weekly to talk about issues that we're having, to make sure that we're all moving in the right direction. We have been conducting that odor control study. Yes, Somerville is addressing it with a different measuring tool. We're doing other measurements, during wet weather and during dry weather. We're going to try to get out there during an activation to make sure that we capture what you folks are telling us, and we appreciate the detailed information that you're providing today. I mean, it's important for us to hear what you face on a daily basis, in your environment. So thank you for that. We're also doing floatable control efforts. We are looking into other technologies that we can apply at some of these CSO discharges to hopefully, reduce some of the discharges of things that are not pleasant to look at. And notification systems, we've embarked on trying to establish some notification systems to help people better understand when there's flood water that could be contaminated with wastewater. So that effort is underway, and we have some deliverables over the next year to address those things. Also just wanted to note that yes, we are working on a new typical year. That typical year is now a 2050 typical year, and these typical years are meant to represent an average year. So we are going to see increases and decreases in CSO discharges Especially, you know, we've seen stuff, I think Kristen had presented some slides of 2023. And that particular year was atrocious. It had, you know, the wettest July on record. So, you know, the plan that we had worked on earlier that Matt talked about got us to a certain level of control, but we fully understand that there's more work to do here. This team is committed to working towards, you know, improving things in this area. I'll end it there, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. All right, we have 5 people remaining from the public who want to share thoughts. We'll go first to Buck McNamara and then to Sam Mulman. Sorry, did I say that right? Welcome, Buck.
Hi, Mackey. My name is Mackey Buck.
I apologize.
And
Well,
that's okay. People get it mixed up. I have 2 last names, so you're absolved. So anyway, I am a retired preschool teacher. I'm also somebody who needs to spend time in nature on a really regular basis in order to feel like I'm really living my life well. And both of those things have me looking forward into the future. As much as I look back to the natural world of my childhood and look at the present state of our natural world. And I just want to remind us all that the handwriting's on the wall. We know that. That's what we're talking about. We know the solutions. We're also talking about that tonight. We've got that constructed wetland right down there. And we owe to not only ourselves, but to those who are coming after us, who will have much greater repairs to be made to the planet. And we owe it to ourselves and them to fix what we can fix now. And that's all I have to say. In a natural way. We want to restore the green environment. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sam Mulman and then Gwen Spieth will be after. Sam, welcome.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So I'm probably your youngest panelist tonight, and I came here to speak from the heart. So I was born at Brigham Women's. I lived in Somerville for 3 years, and then I moved to Arlington and have lived there on Lafayette Street. Up until this point, I'm 20 years old. I'm a sophomore at the University of Massachusetts, and I study resource economics. And I came here to say, as a young person, as the only young person who's spoken today, we are no longer receptive to ineptitude and to stagnation and to things not moving. We don't have the halcyon.
Oh no, Sam, your internet maybe. Sam, if you can hear this, if you can turn
Hello?
off, if you turn off your video, we'll at least be able to hear you possibly better. Do you want to try that? Because it's seizing up.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Did I go out?
You did. Do you-
Okay. Can I have some more time? Is that okay?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. We were born into this sugar honey iced tea, which is an acronym I'll use, but we were born into this sugar honey iced tea, both literally and metaphorically. As a 20-year-old, there has been no time where the Alewife Brook was acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Quite frankly, we're, you know, and I just speak as my generation, we're tired of herding cats. We're tired of feeling like we have to hold the hands of our local politicians, and we don't necessarily feel like we're being heard. This is a perfect issue because regardless of your political affiliation, you're affected by sewage. There's no party that you can belong to that will prevent you from getting sick from sewage, from raw, unfiltered sewage. And the coalitions at my university and other student coalitions in Massachusetts, as they learn about this, they are absolutely horrified. And I'm excited to see how young people can get involved and quite frankly, put pressure on our politicians to serve their constituents. Guys, please stop the political speak, stop the double speak to us as humans. It's denigrating, it's demoralizing. I want to come here and have a conversation. I don't want to hear rhetoric that you've prepared. And the final thing I'll say is, Somerville, you are not slick when you go and develop Assembly Square and just sort of flagrantly lie and say that you're working on the Alewife Brook. That's all I'm going to say. Yield my time.
Thank you, Sam. We'll go to Gwen Spieth next, and then Karen Grossman is after Gwen. Welcome.
Oops. Hi, I may have to turn off my video, but I'll say hi now. I have a million things to say. I'll try to keep it brief. I'm not affiliated with any organization. I just am somebody who lives near the Alewife, and I also need to be in nature, and I walk most days. I was rather horrified to read the BU study about how it could be giving me acute gastrointestinal illness. So I'm stopped walking toward near the CSOs. Like on Sunday night, we had a heavy rain. And sure enough, I woke up and Cam 401A had discharged. And so I didn't walk on Monday. I didn't do my laundry on Sunday or Monday either because it was pouring. And I don't want to, be the cause of the problem. I'm really sorry that Fred Lasky isn't here and that the city manager of Cambridge isn't here, because we are here always yelling at the wonderful Brian and Jeremy and Rich and Jim, and like, you guys care about this, you want to fix this. The problem is the decision makers who at the top. I have to argue with Rich Raich's suggestion that somehow dredging is outside of the purview of this group. Todd Borchi of the EPA suggested it as an appropriate action, and given that the polluters, you are representing them. I'm not yelling at you personally. Have used the Alewife Brook as if it were an open sewer for a very long time. So if you would just maintain it as well as you do your actual sewer infrastructure and just clean it out. Like, let's dredge now. It's not billions, it's millions. It can be done immediately. And it would give you time for the rest of the work that needs to be done to stop the CSO discharges. Having it be able to, the water be able to flow would stop the stagnation and the suspended solids getting stuck, which I promise you they are. And that's part of the stink problem that you are wonderfully analyzing. Notification, that's wonderful, Brian. Like yesterday, please, because I've met people drinking the water. There are so many people fishing in there. And I go by and I have to be this dark cloud and tell them, do you realize that there's sewage in there? It makes me ill, literally and figuratively. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. Please show this to Fred and to my city manager, Cambridge city manager, because they're the ones who we should be yelling at.
Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Karen Grossman next, and after Karen is Michelle Meager. And so we have Karen, Michelle, and then Kent, and those are our final public comments. Karen, welcome.
Hi, my name is Karen Grossman. I'm the president of the Friends of Spy Pond Park, which is just down the bike path from Alewife Station. We have a fun day in the park, and about 400 people with toddlers who push their baby buggies to the park, who have to go through the sewage that is along the path going into Spy Pond Park. And I hear their dismay, and I myself have walked through that area and seen the toilet paper and smelled the sewage. I am also an affiliate of the Mystic River Watershed Association, having been on the board for 10 years. and closely associated with their activities. I praise Patrick Heron's presentation that occurred earlier in this webinar, or whatever we want to call it. And I really would like to see something done, having lived in this area for over 40 years in North Cambridge and right near the Dilboy Stadium on the Mystic Valley Parkway for about 7 years. I know what the smell is, and I know that this has been going on for far too long, and I hope that some more immediate remediation is being done to alert people what is going on, so as they travel through this area, and that some efforts are made immediately rather than over what's been done over the past 20 years of study. We need to have some action. And I do want to say, just to end, that the Mystic River Watershed Association is in Arlington, and Arlington is avid partner to have some green infrastructure and work along those lines. So I thank you very much for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Karen. Next up, Michelle Meager, and then Kent Leidecker, and then Linda Musoris. And then we're going to go to Jim for any final reflections, and then I'll do just a little bit of wrap up.
Hello.
Welcome.
My name is actually pronounced Mar, and I know it's not phonetic. I don't live by the Aylwolf Brook, but I have all of you who are doing this. Thank you very much for providing us with this opportunity. And I'm going to hazard a guess that none of you and I could be wrong, none of you lives with the raw sewage and the smell. You come and you measure and you leave and you go to your homes. Perhaps someone could live near the Aylwolf Brook for a week after a heavy rain and live with the smell, live with the sewage, take your children down there and your pets and live with it for an entire week and really come to know what people have been living with for many, many years. And I just have a question, and someone else raised it tonight, and that is, why, since this has such a direct impact on Arlington, is there no one who was sitting on your panel part of these conversations? I think that's shameful. And I think that you all have the power to advocate for an Arlington representative, because what you decide has a direct impact on everyone who borders the alewife. And people who live in Somerville and Cambridge have you as representatives, yet Arlington has no one. And we are the dumping ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Kent, welcome. And then we'll go to Linda for the final public comment.
Can I be heard?
You can.
I only want to comment that everything's connected to everything else, and directing specifically some thoughts to the Cambridge panelists here. Cambridge has underway thoughts for rethinking Mass Avenue, and Mass Avenue, as it crosses into Arlington, hits the green wall, which is the band of woods between us and Arlington. I sincerely hope that those planning efforts are coordinated so that the one voice is speaking to the other, because anything and everything that can be done to enhance the appeal of the edge of our community where it crosses into our sister community, Arlington, is for the good. Thank you.
Thank you. And Linda Musoris, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Ken,
Okay. I was very pleased to hear the last comment about North Cambridge. I live on North Mass Ave in Cambridge, and I am very concerned by two things that I'm glad I'm the last person commenting on. One is that the North Mass Ave corridor is being targeted for heavy development of towers of housing. And I am wondering whether the powers that be in Cambridge are considering what the erection of these towers of housing, if in fact they are developed, will have on the infrastructure, including the sewer system. Second point, I have heard nothing about the larger national context. I am living in terror of what is happening with the Trump administration and the likelihood not only that environmental protections will be left in place, but that research facilities looking at environmental issues will even get funded. Are people considering these two contexts, both the local as to what will be happening on the North Mass Ave corridor approaching Arlington? It's not far from my house. And the larger national context. What will that mean in terms of the state of Massachusetts and Metro Boston to have to be acting alone?
thank you,
That's it.
Linda. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. We still have 80 participants here. What are we, 2 hours and 20 minutes in? There's like a lot of interest and people care so much. I'm going to give Jim chance for a few words, any responses you'd like to share, and then I'll do a little bit of wrap up and we'll end. Jim, go ahead.
Thanks, Ona. First of all, I just want to thank everyone who attended tonight. Appreciate all the comments and how well informed everyone is about the issues along the Alewife Brook and Charles River, and your input on proposed solutions. I do want to reassure people that MWRA, Cambridge and Somerville have been working very well together and collaboratively on this project. And we do want to deliver for all the stakeholders here. I've been involved in sewer separation and flood alleviation projects in Cambridge for over 25 years. We have made some real improvements in stormwater management, flood alleviation, implementing green stormwater infrastructure, renewing aging infrastructure, and improving the city's urban forest, and look forward to continuing with all those benefits as part of this CSO control plan. One other thing I did want to touch on, because I know there was a number of comments on it tonight, is the redevelopment of the Alewife T station. We are also working with the MBTA on that. They have included the city of Cambridge in their meetings in developing that RFP, and will continue to work with us and are seriously considering CSO control as part of their redevelopment. So again, just want to thank everyone.
Thank you. I want to just share a few themes that we heard from tonight. Again, this recording will be posted. Anyone can go back and kind of get into the details. But a few that Abby and I heard listening include climate considerations and making sure that we're looking to future numbers and anticipated realities. Recreational impacts on rowers, swimmers, boaters, people who are in and on the waters that we're talking about. Wildlife impacts and remembering the fish and the birds and the creatures who are using the space. Time scale and speed, right? The desire for urgency on the cleanup overall, and then the framing of really a public health emergency and the need for short-term mitigation actions whenever possible, that people and neighborhoods and families are living and recreating here now and have been for years. Questions about the Arlington role and how and when they're involved and at the table. The need for increased signage when there are overflow events and more news and more notifications. So keeping on working on that. And I know we heard that that is underway. So that is being worked on right now. The need for a near-term fix on generally, so dredging questions, odor solutions, right? All these different pieces, like what could be done in the near term. The desire and hope for collaboration across agencies, across cities, with MBTA, with the different planning efforts, even within cities. I have just one or two more here. Interest in green infrastructure and nature-based solutions and designing for co-benefits whenever possible. And then a real desire for transparency and community engagement and conversations with the public and with the groups that are following this and really want to understand and give input in a timely way as the work is done. Brian, hand.
Thanks, Ona. Yeah, I just wanted to let people know, I got a note from Mr. Lasky. He was able to join the meeting and he has been listening, so just wanted to let people know that.
Yep, I saw that name in there. That's great. Thank you, Brian. With that, we have a slide or two just on next steps. Here is the project timeline. This is also, we'll be putting these slides up on the website so you can refer to it. That way, if you want to get into the different milestones and deadlines for the various review pieces. But later this year, we will be, later this year, is there a next page on this? Sorry, we'll be coming back for another public meeting or early next year. I forget what the exact time is, when there are alternatives for more information and for the project partners to share with you and get your thoughts on. So stay tuned for that as a next piece. Can we go to the next slide, please? And anytime doors are open from the project partners, reach out if you have questions. Please look around the website. It has a bunch of good resources. It has some frequently asked questions if you're newer to this and you'd like to kind of get a little bit more information. And I think we are good. Thank you, everyone. You're all wonderful. We're so lucky to live in such a community with people who are so articulate about so many important issues. So thank you. Have a wonderful night and a good weekend. We'll be back again before long. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.